While tourists sunbathe on beaches and take photos against the backdrop of picturesque hills beneath their feet at a depth of just a few kilometers, a magmatic chamber the size of a large city is seething. Daily, it releases 1,000 tons of carbon dioxide, as much as a small industrial center produces. The ground rises 15 meters in several years. Rock formations crack under pressure. And all this happens in one of the most densely populated regions of Europe, where 4 million people live on territory the size of an ordinary city. Scientists from University College London and the Italian Institute of Volcanology no longer hide their anxiety. This volcano is approaching an eruption, and when this happens, the consequences will be felt not only by Europe. What changes have occurred this year? Why has the sleeping volcano begun to awaken? And what consequences await us if scientists' new forecasts come true in the near future? Few people know that beneath the feet of 4 million people, a monster capable of destroying half the European continent is awakening. A place where ancient Romans built their villas, not suspecting they lived directly above one of the planet's most dangerous supervolcanoes. Welcome to Campi Flegrei, the fiery fields of Italy, which for a long time remained in the shadow of their famous neighbor Vesuvius. While masses of people watch the main US volcano in Wyoming state and wonder when it will wake up, Italian scientists are sounding the alarm. In their opinion, the real threat is not in American lands, but in the very heart of Europe, just a few kilometers from 3 million Naples. And unlike the American supervolcano, which may remain calm for thousands more years, this volcano gives clear signals. It is waking up right now. Why is so little said about this volcano? The answer is simple and simultaneously frightening. Campi Flegrei is not a classic mountain with a smoking peak. It is a huge caldera, 14 kilometers in diameter, that looks more like a picturesque bay dotted with resort towns. There is no impressive cone, no constant smoke above the crater. There are only beautiful landscapes, thermal springs, and ancient ruins. This is exactly why locals and tourists calmly live and vacation on what geologists call Europe's doomsday volcano. But external calm is deceptive. Beneath this beautiful area hides a monstrous magmatic chamber that 40,000 years ago created such a catastrophe that its consequences were felt throughout the planet. In 2025, the situation changed sharply. In April alone, a record 600 earthquakes. What was previously a subject of academic discussions turned into a real threat. In May, an earthquake of magnitude 4.5 occurred in the Campi Flegrei area, the strongest in the last 40 years. But this was only the tip of the iceberg. Over 6 months, more than 3,000 underground tremors were recorded here, which is several times higher than normal for this region. Italian authorities were even forced to close schools, organize temporary accommodation centers, and prepare evacuation plans for 500,000 people. Video footage from Naples supermarkets where shelves were covered with fallen bottles went viral. For the first time, residents of the region felt they were living on a powder keg. Italy's National Institute of Geophysics and Volcanology reports frightening figures. Magma is now just a few kilometers from the surface, and daily carbon dioxide emissions reach 5,000 tons. For comparison, this is approximately as much as a small city releases into the atmosphere. Gases rise directly from the magmatic chamber, which means only one thing: molten rock is actively moving upward, seeking an exit to the surface. But most alarming is what is happening to the Earth's crust above the volcano. The city of Pozzuoli, built directly on the caldera, has risen almost 15 meters since 2005. The ground here literally breathes, sometimes rising, sometimes falling. Local residents have already become accustomed to their coastal neighborhoods periodically going underwater and then surfacing again. This phenomenon is called by the strange word bradyseism, and it is a classic harbinger of eruption. To understand how critical the situation with Campi Flegrei is, we need to look into the bowels of this sleeping monster. Italian and British scientists created a computer model that shows what's happening underground in real time, and what they saw made them forget about scientific restraint and openly speak about an approaching catastrophe. Pressure in this chamber grows every day, and temperature reaches 1,200 degrees Celsius. Volcanic gases, mainly carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide, rise through cracks in rock formations, heating them to 60 degrees. A study of soil in the Solfatara crater, one of the craters of Campi Flegrei, showed shocking results. About 80% of escaping gases come directly from the magmatic chamber. This means that the connection between molten rock and the surface is practically restored. The Earth's crust deforms, stretches, and becomes covered with microcracks under the influence of growing pressure from below. But the most interesting thing began when scientists applied methods of mechanical failure analysis, the same ones used in construction engineering to check the strength of buildings and bridges. It turned out that the Earth's crust above the supervolcano behaves like material that is at its strength limit. It has already moved from the stage of simple bending to the stage of forming critical cracks. Hypocenters of earthquakes, the points where underground tremors occur, concentrate at depths from 1 to 4 kilometers. This is exactly the level where magma meets colder rock formations. Each tremor is a micro-explosion that expands existing cracks and creates new paths for magma ascent. Over recent months, seismic activity has increased exponentially, which indicates that the process of destroying the volcano's cap is accelerating. In some periods, the ground here rises 3/8 centimeters per month. This is a colossal speed for geological processes. Usually, such changes occur over a century, but here we observe them over months. Thermal springs in the region also behave strangely. Water temperature in natural volcanic gas outlets has risen 10–15 degrees over recent years. Gas composition has become more dangerous. Carbon dioxide content has increased, which indicates that gases are rising from deeper layers where magma is located. But the most frightening discovery was made by researchers when they began studying the structure of the magmatic chamber itself. It turned out that it doesn't represent a single formation but consists of a network of interconnected reservoirs. This means that eruption can begin not from one point but from several craters simultaneously. The Campi Flegrei caldera contains 24 potential eruption centers, and no one knows which one will fire first. The underwater scenario is especially dangerous. Most of the caldera is flooded by waters of the Bay of Naples. If eruption begins underwater, then in addition to magma and ash ejection, instant conversion of seawater to steam will occur. This will create additional pressure and may lead to an explosive character of eruption. Underwater eruptions are always unpredictable and especially destructive. Satellite monitoring data shows that Earth's crust deformation occurs unevenly and concentrates in certain zones. The most active areas are in the central part of the caldera under the city of Pozzuoli and in the area of Solfatara crater. It is here, according to scientists, that eruption beginning is most likely. Indeed, human history knows many volcanic catastrophes, but what Campi Flegrei can create will surpass all known natural cataclysms. To understand the scale of threat, it's enough to remember what happened 40,000 years ago when this supervolcano last showed its true power. The Campanian eruption, as scientists call that ancient catastrophe, ejected 285 cubic kilometers of volcanic material into the atmosphere. To imagine this volume, picture a cube with 65 kilometer sides completely filled with red-hot ash lava and gases. This material rose into the stratosphere to a height of 35 kilometers and spread across all of Europe and North Africa. Ash up to 40 centimeters thick covered an area of 1 million square kilometers. Bulgaria, Romania, Russia. Everywhere archaeologists find a characteristic gray layer that geologists call the Campanian horizon. This is a kind of time marker that divides Earth's history into before and after the super eruption. Many paleoanthropologists believe that this very eruption was the last straw for Neanderthals. These ancient people who successfully survived several ice ages could not adapt to sharp climate change. But this was not the only catastrophe in Campi Flegrei's history. 200,000 years ago, an even more powerful eruption occurred that ejected 3.7 trillion liters of volcanic material into the atmosphere. This is 13 times more than during the Campanian eruption. Now imagine that something similar could happen in our days. Italian scientists created a computer model of a modern Campi Flegrei supereruption, and the results are terrifying. In the first minutes of eruption, pyroclastic flows, a mixture of red-hot gases, ash, and rock debris, will cover all of Naples. Temperature of these flows reaches 800 degrees and speed 100 kilometers h. It's impossible to escape from them. But this is only the beginning. A column of ash will rise to a height of 40 km and begin spreading across all of Europe. Modern climate models show that the ash cloud will reach Paris in 12 hours, London in 18, and Moscow in 36 hours. Air communication will be paralyzed for months, maybe years. Ash containing high concentrations of fluorine and sulfur will poison soil and water. Crops will die over an area of several million square kilometers. Mass famine will begin, which could lead to the death of hundreds of millions of people. Economic consequences will be no less catastrophic. Insurance companies calculated that damage from a Campi Flegrei supereruption could reach $10 trillion. This is more than the GDP of all European countries combined. Financial markets will collapse, production will stop, millions of people will lose their jobs. While scientists build apocalyptic forecasts, Italian and European authorities try to prepare for possible catastrophe. But planning evacuation of several million people is a task that seems impossible even theoretically. Where to find a place for such a number of refugees, how to organize their transportation, and most importantly, how to understand that the time has come to act. Italy's volcanic hazard warning system uses color coding. Green level means calm, yellow means increased readiness, orange means small eruption, red means large eruption with significant ash emissions. Since 2012, yellow danger level has been established for Campi Flegrei, which can be raised at any moment. But the main problem is that no one knows how much time will pass between the beginning of critical changes and the eruption itself. This could be several weeks or it could be several hours. Evacuation plans provide for removal of 500,000 people in the first 72 hours. But what to do with the remaining 3.5 million? And what will happen if eruption begins suddenly without warning signals? The situation is especially complicated with the city of Pozzuoli, which is built directly in the center of the caldera. Its 80,000 residents are in the zone of maximum risk, but evacuating them in advance is impossible. People cannot live in uncertainty for years. However, there is good news if you can say so. The last eruption of Campi Flegrei in 1538 was relatively small. It lasted only 8 days and formed a new mountain 130 m high. No one died, although local residents were frightened by the roar and ash emissions. Perhaps the next eruption will not be as catastrophic as 40,000 years ago. Analysis of magma composition shows that it contains many gases and water, which makes eruption more explosive. But on the other hand, gases can gradually escape through cracks, reducing pressure in the magmatic chamber. This could lead to a calmer, effusive eruption where lava will slowly flow from the crater without creating powerful explosions. Scientists are also studying the possibility of artificially reducing pressure in the volcano. Theoretically, it's possible to drill a well and create a controlled outlet for gases, but this technology is not yet developed, and it's unknown whether human intervention might provoke eruption ahead of time. Recent scientific discoveries show that this supervolcano is even more unpredictable than previously thought, and some of these discoveries force a reconsideration of the entire strategy for preparing for possible catastrophe. In 2024, an international group of scientists made a breakthrough in understanding the mechanism of Campi Flegrei's operation. It turned out that the volcano is connected by underground channels to other volcanic systems in the region, including Vesuvius and underwater volcanoes of the Tyrrhenian Sea. This means that eruption of one volcano can trigger activity of others, creating a domino effect. Scientists are especially troubled by Campi Flegrei's connection to underwater volcanoes. The bottom of the Tyrrhenian Sea is literally strewn with craters of extinct and sleeping volcanoes. If they wake up simultaneously, this could lead to formation of a giant tsunami that will cover the entire Mediterranean coast. Meanwhile, tourists still visit this place, admire ancient ruins, and bathe in thermal springs. Local residents sell souvenirs and tell legends about past eruptions, but experts don't relax. Every day they analyze thousands of data points, look for patterns, and build forecasts. They know that sooner or later, Campi Flegrei will wake up. If you like this video, subscribe to the channel and give it a like.